welcome to the Winner's Circle podcast with Jay, where we bring you the best insights and strategies on leadership. I'm your host, Jay. You already know that already. And today we have a very special guest with us today. Joining me today is Blair Nichols, the owner of BBN Creative Management, a firm for diverse and mission-driven talent, and also is an expert in strategic speaking, like a strategic speaking platform. He also guides speakers and business leaders through the strategies of public and corporate speaking. He has a background representing top authors and managing diverse projects. So I'm just going to welcome today Blair to the Winner Circle podcast. Welcome, Blair.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
All right, good to have you on the show today. So let's get started. So because one thing that comes with me when I'm talking to a speaker, the first thing is, how do you stay organized and make the most of your time as a speaker? Because that's organizing yourself when you're on that stage is very important. So how do you stay organized?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. I think, speakers, a lot of them are doing this in some ways a full-time job, so their organization is balancing the time when they're on the road versus when they're at home. So you do have to be very organized when you're, quote unquote, at home and getting the things done that maybe are not going to be what you really want to do while you're on the road. I know a lot of speakers, when they're traveling and they're getting ready for a presentation or a talk or a gig, they want to be able to focus, and you have to be present. You might need to be on site with the client and the events. It's really difficult to also be checking your email and working on your marketing and recording videos for social or all the other things that you might need to be doing to keep your business going. So it's really important to make the most of your time, and organize and schedule things around your travel and when you're presenting so that you can make the most of your energy and make sure that you're delivering, while you're on site, because that's the most important thing. So yeah, I think being organized is really important, and, making sure that you have different time set aside to do the things that you need to do. And that means that you are going to work differently than someone with maybe a 9-to-5 job. You might do all of your marketing in one day and set up your social calendar and have that just ready to go. And that might be a great strategy for you if you only have little pockets of time to get things done. And we all know it's easier to focus on one task and really just knock it out than to try to multitask, which is what we all do all the time. So, as a speaker, maybe you learn that you can't really multitask, because when you're on stage, you have to be present, you have to be really there. And while you're on site, you need to do that. There's times when you're going to be doing all the things, but try to organize your downtime, your time at home, and really make that focused and productive so that you can really, be present when you're on the road, and keep your time organized that way.
So it's very, very important to keep your mind on the stage, not out of the
Yeah.
stage. Yeah. Sometimes a lot of people are victims of that. When they get on the stage, there are a lot of things going through their mind, and sometimes they get lost in by speaking. Sometimes. So another question I was going to ask, which will be a follow-up question, in your own perspective right now. All right. So we talk about being a speaker, a successful speaker. So what defines a successful speaker, or what defines a successful speaking career? And how has that definition, successful, how has it positively impacted your own life as a speaker?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. And it's a question I actually really love talking about, because I think the definition of success really depends on the speaker. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of different speakers, whether, really full time with them as a manager or just even booking them for one event. And so you get to know them and what their priorities are and what their, their goals are. And for some speakers, they want to book as many dates as possible. They want to get booked out there and they want to be on the road. And but that can be a really long, difficult career. It takes its toll on you, all the travel and all of the, the going from place to place and not being able to spend time at home. So I think that idea of success has changed into a one that's sustainable. There's a lot of speakers that maybe they have a run of success for a few years and then they don't have that again. And then there's less people who are able to sustain a lucrative speaking career over multiple decades. And the people that do, I think, are the ones that have figured out how to make it more sustainable through strategies that I'm really excited about, like other products and services that support your speaking, so that you're not just solely reliant on just your speaking. So I think success depends on really what your goals are. When I help people grow their speaking business, again, that's what a lot of people's goal is, but I try to then say, the real focus is on what is the speaking now going to do for you? What is it going to do for your business? What is your goal with your message, with these talks? It shouldn't be just getting booked for that talk. Now, how do you bring that audience along with you? So success for you could look like a lot of different things, but speaking should only be, one channel, one platform, one tool to be able to create impact, because your life might be changed because of a spark that's lit from a speaker that you heard, but more often, you need to really work at change. So you might be more interested in how often you get to go into a company and actually do more than just a keynote and do workshops and do deeper consulting work. Or you might be really excited about every time you speak you get 40, 50, 60, 100, 1,000 new people on your email list, and you have your own events and your own community and your own courses and products. Speaking is just another avenue for what your true goal, I hope, is. And if it's, simply just getting paid to speak, then you're stopping short on really what I think your mission probably is when you're getting on that stage in the first place. So it really just depends on what your mission is and what does success look like. I think every time you get out there and speak, it's a success. Every time that you've spoken up and shared your voice and your knowledge and your expertise, or you've helped make a positive difference in someone's life, it's a success. So I don't think there's any unsuccessful speaking careers. I think there are just different definitions for different people, on what success looks like for them. And if that's something you can't always figure out on your own. So, you need the guidance and support of people like Jay and others to help you figure out what maybe success looks like. And then getting there, you know, it's a group effort.
All right, thank you for that valid answer. Because I believe success itself, it's your own personal definition of what you're trying to achieve. All right, so
Yeah.
if success to you is just being able to even climb that stage and make your point, all right. So it's not just all about getting paid or how much you're paid, because a lot of people use the word successful speaker, all right. Like so it's the goal of making your points, all right. So whatever, just like you said, just make your point, define your own success when it comes to speaking. So now when we talk about success right now, so let's look at take a question to you, all right. And in that area, I'm trying to look at this part, right. Let's look at your journey as a speaker, all right. So what are the challenges you encountered when you got started, as a, not just a speaker, as a coach, a speaking coach. So what are the challenges you encounter, and how did you navigate through them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and most of my career has been on the agency side as a coach, as a manager. So less of myself on stage and thousands of people that I've, helped facilitate being up on stage. And so I can speak to a little bit of both, with working with a lot of speakers who are getting started. And I think there's a lot of different ways that can trip you up in the beginning, whether it's figuring out what you want to talk about, or figuring out where you should be speaking, or just the fear of doing it in the first place. Even if you're really excited about something you want to share and you know exactly who you want to share it with, just the fear of doing it can hold you back. So I think in either of those three areas, people often need that help to get started. And I'd say that it's like jumping into the pool or jumping into something. You just really have to do it to get over some of that fear, to understand you're not going to die. Just doing it, you're going to be okay delivering a talk and getting up and speaking in front of others. And if that's not your problem, if you love talking and presenting and speaking in front of others, then maybe it's figuring out really, okay, what is my unique topic? What is the thing that I want to be known for, or that because of my background, because of my expertise, I really have the authority to speak on? And that can take some time, for people to determine, what is that thing that I'm all about, and then getting to that place. For me, I never thought that I'd be an authority in this industry. I think since I started in this industry, I was figuring out how to get away from it, but I love it so much because it keeps pulling me back in. And I think there's so many different paths it can take, and there's not just the same cookie cutter process for every person. So for me, it's being part of an industry where just my expertise has grown over the years because I've stuck around and continued to grow and change jobs and be on different sides of the industry. And that's gotten me, opportunities to speak to prospective speakers and other people in the industry about, where I came from. But for me, I think I was always one of those people who wanted to stand up and voice an opinion and get involved and take on leadership roles. And even though public speaking and standing up in front of the class, I remember being quite nervous about that, like everyone is. I think I also found it thrilling in a way. And so I think there's always been a part of me too, even from a young age, that was attracted to, I did theater. And so just the, more on the performance side. And I think, but seeing it as a way that is always positive to people. For the most part, if you're speaking to inspire. There's not a lot of negative kind of speaking out there, and at least in the industry that I've been part of. So you're always just doing something good. And even if it only lasts for 30 or 40 minutes, hopefully it can be something bigger, So I don't know, off track from where I started to where I began, but mostly just my my throughout my career, I volunteered to be on committees where we would organize networking events for young editors and agents to get together in the publishing industry, because I was part of the publishing industry when I first started. And that allowed me to speak in front of our CEO, the CEO of HarperCollins Publishers, like a pretty major world publisher. I got to speak in front of and meet, and, because I volunteered or like was part of something that went beyond my job description. So if you're someone who is a speaker, you're probably similar. You're probably someone that's gone beyond your position, or pursued something more than your whatever your one hobby or thing is, and you have a passion. One of my first bosses said that speaking is an avocation, not a vocation. So if you're just in it as a job, then I don't think that you're going to be quote unquote as successful. I think the people who are really truly quote unquote successful are the ones who really have it as a mission, know their purpose, know what they really want to share, or at least have the clarity of understanding their expertise, their value, the value that they can impart, and can very clearly deliver that, and even if they want to leverage that to get you to work with them more or learn more from them in their courses or their workshops, like if they can deliver value in 45 minutes, then great. Then why wouldn't you want to learn more from them? If it can help accelerate the things you don't know, that's how it goes. There's 20 years of experience baked into an hour-long session, that would have taken you a lot longer to try to figure out. So it's an interesting industry, and I think people get a lot of value from it. And I feel like there used to be maybe some negative stereotypes about cheesy motivational speakers, but I think what I've seen is that the industry has evolved into more of an appetite for authenticity. And so the further along where you can be real, you can be vulnerable, you can connect to an audience in a more emotional way by storytelling not just delivering, facts and figures and trying to, sound like the smartest person in the room, but actually trying to connect with this audience and, bring them along with you. And, that's what people want. So, hopefully that can take some of the fear out of it too. Like, you don't have to be the most accomplished, most, educated, most, amazing person to have a really incredible message and a really valuable, point of view and something worth sharing. So I think I've tried to model that in my own life and then encourage other people to continue doing the same.
All right, thank you for that information. And one key thing I got from you is when you're speaking your truth. All right, you need to engage in storytelling. Is a very good way. Body language is also a very good way. All right, and another thing is you spoke about when you got started, the nerves and anxiety that comes with it. So and when we were when we had this promotionals out there about this show that we're going to bring in a speaking coach, one of the questions that got to us was this particular thing. All right, and I'm going to give you an example. I was at the UN. All right, I was speaking there. So there's this person that passed a note to me that I should say what is in that note. That she has a word she want to say, but she can't say it. That I should help her say it. I'm like, come on, you should be able to say it. The mic is in front of you. Just speak. I was like, no, I can't. I'm scared. I'm like, scared of what? Just speak. All right. So she couldn't do it. I tried to encourage her. She was like, no. I'm like, no, just. She couldn't. But well, it happened like that. She couldn't. So now that kept put in my mind. After then, I tried to give her words and how best she can actually and she's read more books about it. But that's the question that's lingering in people's mind. So how do you recommend as a coach, right? Because you're not just a speaker, you're a coach, right? So how do you recommend handling nerves and anxiety before a speaking engagement?
Yeah, great question. And I love talking about this too. There's, of course, all manner of ways that people choose to relax or pump themselves up. Like if that's like their like vibe, if they want to like energize listening to music, I think again, being present, being grounded. But the way that I have helped speakers on site, if I'm with them at an event, is to say, you're here to give a gift. This audience, it's not a performance, you're not being judged or critiqued. Your knowledge, your voice, your message is the gift. And I think that really helps relax people and reminds them again about what their purpose is there for the day. Most of the time these are positive events. Like I mentioned, people are on a work trip, or it's a conference they're excited about it. They're eager to receive. So you're there to give. And I think most people love giving gifts. So I think that kind of like reframes it in their mind in a way where they feel less about, the nerves of the performance or the evaluation or getting it right, and more about why they're really there. Like your friend who might have been, afraid to speak up in the meeting at the UN. Anytime you say what's on your heart or mind, that someone else might have been afraid to do the same, you're helping them. It's like asking a question. Your question might be something that a lot of people are afraid to ask. So by asking it, now you've helped all those other people too. So in that same way, it is an act of courage, but it's a gift. It's a gift to the audience, especially when you're sharing your knowledge. And when you speak up in any context, when you're adding your point of view or something to this discussion that other people might be even more afraid to share, just keep that in mind, that that's an opportunity, and that's an opportunity to maybe start to overcome some of those fears that come from being able to step out on a stage too.
All right, thank you for that point. So I was going to ask another question also, especially when it comes to the speaking, the communication part, the techniques to connect with the audience. All right. We talked about storytelling. You spoke about storytelling earlier. So, but apart from storytelling, is there any other techniques apart from body language? Is there any other techniques that you can share that speakers can use to connect and engage with audience effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about storytelling in a broad sense, but there's all different elements of, pacing, using humor and jokes, of course, is a great way, if they can be appropriate and like, aligned, with the event and what you're looking to accomplish. I've also seen speakers who, even in a keynote, even in a short amount of time, have facilitated a quick, raise your hand if you're identify as a triangle or as a this or that, and just even some audience engagement, getting people moving, getting people talking to one another. If you have time to facilitate something like that, obviously it takes that experience to the next level. It goes from something that's more passive to something that's active. So if you really want to shift the energy in the room, you are in control of that. So your energy that you bring to your presentation is really the energy that's being channeled to this audience. So if you want to slow it down and you want people to, really lean in and listen, you might lower your voice and slow down your pace and, you know, get their attention in that way. And then if you really want to like get them excited and get them moving, you might get them standing and doing something active. And, that's, you have permission to do that. You are in control of this experience. And I think so many speakers forget that they have to just do something that this is what they're there to do. But again, what you want is a happy person who booked you for the talk. You want a happy audience. You want people walking away feeling, energized and excited, or whatever that event planner wants them to feel. So one of the best questions that, the professional speakers always ask is, how do you want the audience to feel after my talk or as a result of my presentation? Or what change do you want them to go through? Or what do you really, asking about that experience gives you insight so that then what success looks like now to the event planner. Whereas that is something it's hard to measure what success looks like as over your career, but event by event, what success looks like is a happy customer, right? A happy client who has a happy boss and who wants to book you again because you did a great job, or now who wants to talk to you about maybe leading their leadership retreat or doing some workshops for them, So all the ways that you can think of that might enhance your presentation are wonderful. But now I will say this, you have to do it well. Don't let technology or fancy bells and whistles be a detriment to your presentation. Don't try to add 10 video clips that don't always play correctly and take too much time and distract from, a cohesive, presentation. So use these new tools and these ways of engagement, in a way that aligns again with like the flow of the presentation and the experience you want this audience to have. So don't try to get too clever and let it take away from that baseline emotional impact. Some of the best speakers I see don't use PowerPoint slides, don't do any of the, the engagement that I'm even talking about with polling or quizzes or raising their hands or doing any of the active stuff. They're really just engaging storytellers. But that is a craft that, takes time to master. So in the meantime, like, think about how you can just incorporate some humor, incorporate a little bit of, some interactivity, and watch other people. Go see other speakers. There's a million YouTube videos, of course. There's a million TED Talks, but don't just watch TED Talks. Watch big stage presentations from big conferences. Find speakers in your space that you admire. It's a great strategy if there's a speaker that's kind of, further along in their career ahead of you, to be finding out where they spoke, where they're speaking, to be pitching yourself to those places, to be attending those events, to be, looking at other role models that you may have in this industry is a great way to kind of start figuring out really where a good niche for you may be and expose you to audiences that maybe you hadn't considered. So I think all of that can just help you improve as well as help you grow your business.
All right. So as you were talking, I was thinking about something. And the thing is, what if? What if you have like a very challenging audience, maybe audience members, and they just don't flow with your pattern, all right? So how would you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely going to be situations where maybe you've got the morning session and people are hungover, people are tired, people are, that interested in what you're talking about, but I'd say this, like, look for the people that are there for what you're delivering. Like, you are there as the speaker even if the room is empty. If they book you and no one shows up for your session, like, you're still like going to deliver a great session for one person or for the camera or for the whatever. So even when there's a challenging audience, like I said, you have permission to try to change the energy, to try to like shake things up if that's what you're there to do. If that's really what your purpose is. But if your purpose is to get your point across, then your message, then that again, that kind of just comes back to your ability to just connect and to gather their attention. And again, you're not always going to have the best audience, but it's not like a comedy club. You're not going to get heckled, I promise. I haven't seen any heckling for the most part, I don't think, at any of the major keynote events that I've gone to. And there's always going to be people who are tired or disengaged or on their phone, but there's probably going to be even more people that are engaged, that are going to get something to take away from that, and kind of bring it back to why you're there. For I've had speakers say, even if there's 1,000 people in the room and 10 people stay afterwards to talk to him or ask questions, it's like those are the 10 people that he's doing it for, because that's the people who are are really engaged, really excited, really gonna maybe go do something different. And even though the other 990 people may have been super impressed and happy and everything else, there's an added element to that. So I don't know, I guess think about if you can even pull from that difficult audience a few people, and what a success that would be, just to even have a few people come up and be excited and want to do something with you, because in some of those events it might just be the one person that changes your business or helps you start a new path.
Thank you for that analysis, and thank you for helping people to see how they can get out of that situation, because it's going to come definitely. You know, once you take that note of when it comes, you know what to do. Right there, you can listen to this all over and over again. So thank you for everyone joining us live, and you can always listen to the recording next week Wednesday on all our platforms. So thank you for everything. That's what I want to say. And also to Blair, I want to say thank you so much for this beautiful information you're giving us on this show. Now we're going to the next steps, all right, which is the business part. Because you are not just a speaker, you are a coach, a speaking coach. So you are not just a regular speaker. So you're like a double degree, more than a double degree of speakership. So now let's talk about the business aspect of this session. All right. So now, what are the techniques needed? Or let me just say, what are the skills? That's from your own experience over the years. All right. What are the necessary skills needed to excel in public speaking?
Sure. So I think you really need to first hone in on your expertise and have topics that align with that expertise, that experience, and that you can position to the market in a way that's compelling, that speaks that speaks their language, and that really solves a problem that they, whether they know they had it or not, but that is something that is going to resonate with them. So just figuring out that topic, I think, can be the biggest challenge and can be the thing that really just sets people apart and makes some people an instant success because they have a book or a TV show or a movie or a documentary or something that gives them a platform that then makes everyone very excited about what they have to say. But that's rare. Most of the time, people have to, work their way up, gather all of their credentials, and to be successful, it's not just about getting out and getting speaking. It is about the PR and the media and being known and building your platform. So that means being on podcasts. That means getting in other traditional areas of media, and also building out your own platforms and building your email list and having, a reason why people come to you for your thought leadership. It's not enough to just say, well, I had a career and now I'm an expert, and so now I just talk about things. The most successful people are still engaged with their work. They're still consulting, they're still doing research, or they're still writing more books. They're going to keep evolving, and they're going to continue to, just reinforce their value and their expertise, and that's the ones who have made it for multiple decades, who've grown their speaker fee, and who've been able to continue to stay, with full speaking calendars pretty much booked, because they're kind of doing all the things it requires to stay relevant. But again, everyone should have their own definition of success. You can have a lot of relevance within your industry, within your niche, and that's probably where you want to start, is really where you have the most relevance, the most connections, and build from that. Then move laterally into maybe other industries, other verticals. But it's all about just creating that differentiating point of view that allows people to come to you for this one thing, and not saying I can talk about everything, or what I talk about is relevant to everyone, but really making it clear who this is for, what that, problem, solution, all of that is, and then going after that target audience, that you really want to grow with.
Thank you so much for that. So talking about fees, let's talk about fees. So how do you negotiate fees as a speaker?
Sure. Well, you should have a value in mind for your presentation, and also a value for what this event might be for you. When you're just starting out, and you're pitching yourself, it's a lot harder to then negotiate a fee. It doesn't mean it can't happen, especially when you're in when you're starting out. You're probably going to be in the $1,000 to $5,000 range, maybe for some virtual or in-person things. And if you're pitching yourself and they have budget, that's usually a range where they might, be open to people being soliciting speaking slots, or coming to them for that. Or that might be on the lower end of an honorarium for conferences that ask you to apply, and submit proposals or things like that. There might be a small stipend for events like that. And these are all great opportunities, in ways, of getting started, getting seen as a speaker, getting out there, and, doing speaking for free, I think, is always valuable if you are strategic with, trying to get that audience onto your email list, or how do you convert that, making sure you get that talk recorded, so at least you're getting good footage and more footage of you speaking. Leveraging every opportunity, I think, is important, as long as it makes sense. But the difference comes when people are coming to you for speaking. Establishing yourself as an authority, having a website built out with a full speaking page with your topics, and with video, and with, testimonials, and, logos to show where you've spoken before. Then maybe you're out there writing articles and getting published in Fortune, or, Fast Company, or you're just blogging and writing for LinkedIn, and you're emailing. So when people start coming to you and asking and inquiring about speaking, that's when you have a lot more leverage to bring your fee up, or they can come to you and you can ascertain what their budget is. And that's when you can start moving into the 5 to 10K range. And it all just depends on demand. It's a typical market. There's not a ton of people making more than 50K per talk, which is still quite a bit of money. But it builds based on how much demand there is for your speaking. So if you become a best-selling author, if you have the number one new podcast, all the ways that people are going to learn about you, and especially about your thought leadership, are all the ways that then people become, much more expensive speakers than maybe where they started. So it's, when I'm coaching people, I'm kind of, it's a balance of how do we raise your platform and continue to lean into your strengths and keep growing that platform that brings attention to you, and how are we, actually just promoting your expertise and getting it out there and going directly to, strategic audiences that will make an impact in that area too. I think fees will come naturally, but every event you go to is an opportunity for you. And like I said, what is speaking for? It's not just about this fee, right? So if speaking at this event means you might sign up another coaching client, well, how much do you charge for coaching? Maybe speaking for free at every event forever is the best strategy, because you always get clients and your clients pay you a lot of money and you don't need to do a lot of speaking. Maybe that's your strategy. It really just has to depend on, like, what does speaking do for you? And then why? So is it worth it? If there's people who say, well, it's not worth it for me to fly and do a talk unless it's X amount of money, because they know what their time is worth. They know what the value of an event is for them. And, there might be a minimum amount of money that they need to realize to make that worthwhile. So in the meantime, before you figure that out, just try to make the most of every event, and then you'll start to be able to determine, what sort of value you bring to it, and how to barter the other stuff that goes along with that.
Thank you so much for that. So to the next question that I have for you today, we're in the business series right now, so we're thinking about the strategies, how we can actually get better, all right, as a speaker, leveraging on how to, make a living or amplify your voice as a speaker, all right? So the question I have for right now is, um, what role does technology play in enhancing your speaking engagement, and how do you leverage it effectively?
Yeah, great question. In the advanced technology, obviously just the digital marketing side of just getting booked and having great video, and all of the ways that you can get your video distributed nowadays on all different platforms, I think is a real advantage for speakers, so that people can really see and hear their voice and see them speak in the real live way all the time, and get that experience without having to only have a couple YouTube videos or only have a couple things to review. So just the abundance of video nowadays, I think, is great and just helps get you out there. But as far as like leveraging it into your actual presentations, I do think audio and visual is important. Like I said, I've seen some of the most amazing speakers, and speakers I work with don't use any slides, but having visuals to reinforce, like depending on who you are, I work with a celebrity and an amazing photographer. So having his photos as part of his presentation is absolutely vital, because that's core to what he is. And you have a visual to go with the story that he's telling. So it makes a beautiful kind of combination. I think people run into issues when they're doing kind of old school PowerPoint, where the words are on the PowerPoint and then they're saying the words to us, or even worse, they're saying different words, and it's all very confusing. So I think you really need to think about how the technology, like I mentioned before, enhances the presentation, allows you to do something more with the audience, that allows, one of my clients just put some very quick video clips into his presentation, and they worked perfectly. They were seamless. And because usually, like I said, I don't think you should put a ton of video. There's always the potential for issues, and you don't know if it's going to work or it's going to look right or how the sound is going to sound. So it can be a real tricky thing, but if it works right, and you practice it, and there's always AV tech rehearsals. If you're going to do AV, you make sure you're showing up for your opportunity to do your AV rehearsal with the team at the event, because most of the time that's included, that's part of it. They want you to take advantage of that. And especially if you've got things in your presentation, it's really on you to make sure that those things go correctly, or make sure that that's all teed up correctly. So hopefully you won't have any issues. But that's the other side of it. There's always a potential for something to go wrong when there's added elements of complexity, and you just have to be aware of that and also be able to pivot if something goes wrong and to abandon it if it's not going to work. You just got to just be able to roll on and not make a big deal out of it. I think people get so hung up sometimes on correcting a tech issue that it derails their presentation. And I would just say, like, don't let it be so over present to you that it's going to derail the main point. But there's a company called Talkadot that's great because you can use them for surveys as part of the talk and also gather contact information from the audience. So they offer really great service for speakers, and there's a lot of similar types of technologies that I think you can incorporate where people just go on their phones. They can do a survey right there. Again, if you've got more than 45, 60 minutes, it's not a bad idea. You want to do something engaging. It obviously becomes more of a workshop, but I like to call up to 90 minutes like a facilitated keynote. So it's a little more engagement. There's some facilitation, but it's largely a keynote. It's largely driven by the speaker, but a little bit of that is great. And I just be curious and play with them, but make sure you test, make sure you practice, and just make sure that you know how they're going to work and how it's going to add to the experience and not detract. And that goes for virtual presentations as well. That's what was kind of cool when we all were stuck doing all Zoom meetings and everything else during the pandemic, is that people did get creative with different tools and polls and emojis. And I'd say it's great. You can have a live chat, you can have a lot of things happening with a virtual presentation that you can't really do in person. So have fun with that if that's something you think will add to the experience, because we all know how boring it can be to just sit and listen to someone talk on a Zoom or something. So yeah, like mix it up with some of those tools and make sure people are actually listening.
All right. So, what tips do you have for a speaker trying to, you know, um, create a very captivating bio? Does bio really matters as a speaker? What role does bio play?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, and I think this comes back to the idea of like figuring out what is your unique perspective and what is like the thing that makes you special. And this is where I really think it's helpful to get an outside opinion from your friends, your colleagues. Like, what is the things, that you've accomplished or that you've done that really make you stand out? So that when you're describing yourself, it's less important about like the bio and the resume and every detail of the life, but it's more important about like kind of that top line. So it's not as important to say you're a speaker. Yeah, we get that. Or, an author. Okay, most people are, as their speakers, but like what are you that makes you the authority on this topic? So I think is rather than your bio might reinforce like kind of how you got to there, but I think what is important is like, okay, Jay is like marketing and business development expert or something, like something that stands out, like one of my clients, former NFL and NBA executive. So people already get it, like, cool, he used to work in the NBA and NFL, because for him that's the really unique point, like thing about him that think people think is pretty cool. And like like again, if you're a number one New York Times best-selling author, then you might want to put that first. But if it's just coming from your background, you want to lean into the descriptors, the experience, the things that just reinforce why you're the person that's the right person to be talking about whatever it is you're speaking about below. It should make sense. So rather, the bio, yeah, it matters to some degree, background, and people are interested, and that can also win you engagements because people are excited to see certain elements of your bio or the connections that they may have. But I think the figuring out really just the headline of how you position yourself is the most important part of it.
So now, when you were talking, something came up to my mind that when you get to it, have you been in a situation whereby you attended an event, all right, and the mic was passed to you, all right, to speak on the subject matter? you never have a plan. Some people take them like maybe like a day to come up with their presentation, their ideas, and all that. So and you pass the mic to just speak on a subject matter without planning or preparing for it. How do you handle it? People can easily handle that. I know there are a lot of people that can handle that, but how do you? What are the skills to be able to handle that when you never prepare for it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unique situation, I suppose, that you would find yourself in. But if you were asked to do that, I think this is where having stories kind of at the ready, when like a lot of times since we've been talking about storytelling and including those in your keynote as a way to connect with audiences, as a way, to be able to customize even your talks to different audiences, you might tell different stories. And I often tell speakers, start writing down, like just keep a running list of your stories, or just start to organize them. Like you might want to categorize them as they grow, but it's a really valuable tool to just have those kind of at the ready. And when you're building a new talk, or you're thinking about how you might want to open or close, or how you might want to try something different, even for social media, it's such a great thing to just tell a story. People, watching on a reel or whatever, TikTok and on Instagram or wherever, you're gonna lean in to listen to a story more than they're gonna just necessarily watch like a full presentation. So having a running list and then seeing maybe there's different stories that are really popular, that become really popular, and then that might be ones that you start including in your talk. So I would just say if that having those kind of ready, kind of, these are like, this is the story I might tell if I'm put on the spot at a party or a dinner party or at an event. And then then maybe depending on the context, you might have something to say. And I would say that if you are in a room full of people, no matter how many people, it could be 1 million people, and someone passed you the mic and you said, okay, I'm going to tell you a story, you will have everyone's attention. Now you gotta deliver on that. But just even starting there, everyone's gonna lean in and say, okay, cool, tell me a story, because that's what we love, that's what we do. So I would say if you're in that situation, then yeah, try to have some stories ready to share.
So storytelling is very important as a speaker.
I guess so. I mean, it really is. It really is how we connect, and it is really how people learn, and how things sink in, and how you're remembered. So it just can't be. It can't be overstated, really, because that's what separates the big speakers, the big keynote, opening speakers, from the other, maybe presenters or panelists who just speak on kind of a topic or something else, or they might not be as recognized or remembered. So yeah, I would definitely and say that storytelling is key.
I agree with you because the greatest book ever written, the Bible, is about storytelling.
Absolutely.
All right. The one of the best speaker, Jesus Christ, right? You know, most of the stuff is all about parables, storytelling.
Exactly.
So I agree with you.
Exactly.
Storytelling is very, very important when it comes to speaking, and I can't agree less. So as we are rounding up, I always do this, But before we do that, I want to quickly make a mention for one of our sponsors for this show. It's Gianna Vento luxury brand. Um, we just want to say thank you for sponsoring this show today. Just say thank you so much. And if you really want something luxury in the level of Fendi and brands like Gucci and all that, you need to go to giannavento.com and check out their product. Maybe something you like. Trust me, they have good product. So we're gonna put a link on there where you can check out Gianna Vento luxury brand and see maybe you can pick up one or two things on the platform. So thank you for sponsoring this show today. All right. So I always do this thing, to all my guests on the show. We always ask these questions, like what resources, maybe such as books, even podcasts or courses, would you recommend to an individual, all right, looking to enhance their public speaking skills? I just want like maybe like 5 books, so maybe 10 books if you have more. I think 10. Well, let's do 10. We often do
I
5, so let's do 10. Let's see.
Okay, well,
If you
I don't
can.
even know if I can. This is where I hate getting put on the spot because I have too many. I don't even know if I could think of 10 books right now just because there's just too many.
Mm,
But you can go to bbncreativemanagement.com and set up a free 30-minute call for
okay.
some resources and advice from me. But I would say, like I worked with Keith Ferrazzi for a long time, and his book Never Eat Alone is all about building your people plan and how to build connections. And that's building is such an important part of building a speaking career, just like building any career or being successful in any business. Dan Negroni has some great work that I'm working with him on his next thing right now. Paul Epstein around better decisions, making better decisions. Melody Wilding wrote Trust Yourself and using your emotions as your superpower. And that's something that's really important for people who are, especially for people who are more introverted, people who are more nervous about speaking or nervous about standing up and using their voice and being heard. It's such an important part of, office politics nowadays. But my goodness, there's so many amazing people out there. I hate to be the only one to direct you, but I would just say, like, be curious, explore different speakers. There's just so many really amazing people out there who are able to put their content on YouTube. You never used to be able to see everyone from around the world sharing ideas. And yeah, go down the rabbit hole sometime and just watch some TED Talks or some keynote talks, and I think you'll find plenty of books to read and countless numbers of podcasts to listen to on top of that too.
All right. Thank you so much for that information, because a lot of people now, they have an idea of the book they need to grab to further um, learn more about public speaking. So now let's talk about your brand, right? The BBN Creative Management. So like for people who really maybe they want to be a good speaker, they really need to reach out to you to coach them. So how do they contact you? What are the things you offer? Speakers. What are the
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I offer a free 30-minute session just to kind of share with me where you're at, what you're trying to do, what your questions are, and I can give you as much insight and advice as possible in that time. And I also offer a 1 hour session or longer coaching, where we spend at least 90 days together, weekly coaching. I really help you. In phase one is all about the positioning, the topics, and getting it right, getting at your speaker assets and all of the ways that we want to now present you to the world as a speaker in the market, getting all that. Phase two is going to market. How are we leveraging your email assets, your social media, all of your marketing, the marketing plans to go out to your network to build now momentum for your speaking, and what's the ongoing kind of go to market plan for your marketing and biz dev kind of on that side. And then the third phase, or the third element of my coaching, is around, now great, you're getting out there, you're getting speaking opportunities. Now what are we driving them to? What is it for? What are the products and services that you're going to build around your speaking? How are we leveraging the speaking engagements to drive people to your list? And then what's next, and walking them through launching a digital course or a community or new coaching programs or their own events or any number of different things, or setting them up for more corporate engagement. So all three phases is really what we cover in my coaching. And then, hopefully that gives you a pretty robust strategy that we either continue working together, or you take that and keep building from there. So you can go to bbncreativemanagement.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram, and set up some time to chat.
All right, that's great. So you need to reach out to Blair if you need to get more information. He has already provided all the links you need to know. So try as much as possible. Reach out if you're trying to build a career in speaking, or probably you're trying to push your public speaking to the next level. So well, for today, thank you so much for coming on the show. And that's all we have today, because we have really run out of time. And I want to thank our amazing guest, Blair, for sharing his insights and his expertise in on public speaking. All his tips, his strategies, for crafting a signature talk, overcoming stage fright. I think that's one of the major information he shared today. Like, that's strategy for overcoming stage fright, because I know a lot of people that are scared of that. It's pure gold, right? A lot of people are scared of that, and I'm sure with that you'll be able to know how to navigate around. So, one more thing, I think I forgot that, which is, what advice do you have for people who want to become a public speaker? Just one short advice.
Just get out there and start speaking. Speaking begets more speaking. So the more you can get out there, get up in front of your church, your school, your kids' school, wherever you can, share your message, share a story, share some value. You'll never know what opportunities will come from that. And the more you do it, the more you'll bring and invite more into it, into your life.
All right. Thank you for the inspiration. You've heard it all from the coach. He said, get out there, start speaking, go to your church, go to your school, just take the mic, whatever the worst that could happen would happen, right? But you're making a point, all right? Don't forget to subscribe for more information and for more inspiring conversation every Wednesday. Until next time, keep striving for greatness. And you need to know that public speaking is awesome once you understand the skills involved. And he has given us the skills involved. So till next time, make sure you subscribe and follow. Alright, have a nice day, guys.
This is the same building of Yergo Silicon.